I'm the honored one, that is for sure.
No, not only is she a leader in the industry, but she was Ideas Instructor of the Year last year, which is a really big deal. People, that's something that it takes years to attain, and I'm so I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to know you. I know you're such a, and you're humble more than anything else. So take it away, Miss Kimberly.
Thank you, my dear. It is such an honor and honestly a blessing to just get to be on this call with you. When Barbie reached out to me and she explained what these calls were, it's an opportunity for you all to come together, just to support each other, to grow, to continue to delve into what you're passionate about. I leaped at the chance to be a part of it. I think it's really spectacular that you all choose to come together in this way. So kudos to each and every one of you for being on the line and even being open to having a conversation. And I'm sure that you're aware that the conversation that we're going to be having today, it's about you. It's about the power of you. And the whole concept behind the Make a Difference Academy, which I recently started up and founded, is that we do have so many resources in our industry around exercise, around the physical. So you can get certified in just about any genre or format that you could imagine. You can then be a part of a continuity program, get ideas, get choreography ideas, exercise sequence ideas, the how-tos. And that's generally where we meet our clients and our students, is at the physical level on that plane, which is, as Barbie says, it's very necessary. But I've come to learn in my 25 plus years in this industry that we can motivate people for sure to move and even to eat well. But unless we meet them on all planes, on all levels, the physical, the mental, the emotional, even the spiritual, it's going to be really difficult to impact them with long-lasting positive change. So my efforts are all around supporting you as instructors, as teachers, as leaders, and being able to meet yourself on all four levels, and then also be able to meet those who you serve on those levels as well. So I actually prepared a PowerPoint presentation for you. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I am going to give you a full disclosure warning. Technology and me are like this, and I would be this one. So we're going to hold our breath, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. It's going to be what it's going to be, is what it's going to be. So, Barbie, can I ask for your help as to whether or not the screen, you can see my screen here? Oh, I think you are muted, Barbie.
I was muted. I said so many good, important things that you didn't hear just now. One of which, yes, I can see your screen.
Fantastic. So I have us at the beginning of a slideshow I have prepared for you. So I'm going to take us to the beginning of the presentation. So the whole idea here is to talk a little bit about behold the power of you. The fact of the matter is that we are, each and every one of us, powerful creators. We are the creators of our own experience and have an opportunity to make a tremendous positive impact on this world. So with that, I want to ask you if you remember these days, this feeling, when you were young and you just felt like nothing was impossible, that, the concept of success and fulfillment, in a 3, 4, 5-year-old, it's not even a conversation. It's all about being in the moment and feeling like you can literally fly. And what I think is absolutely amazing is that my 4 3/4, actually 4 11/12 year old, he keeps updating me, but he turns 5 next month. But he, about 4 or 5 months ago, decided I could fly. And ever since, he's been asking me to, in fact, show him that I can fly. And all that it came from was he was sitting in his car seat, and a friend and I were outside of the car, and we got him to look away. I ducked down to where he couldn't see me. He looked back, where'd mommy go? We got him to look away again. I popped up, and he looked back and saw me, and he's like, where did you go? I said, oh, I just flew up to the clouds for a little bit and then came back down. So he's completely and utterly convinced that I can, in fact, fly. There are no limiting beliefs. There are no doubts in a small child. It's how we all come into this world, with these feelings of invincibility, these feelings of confidence, these feelings of I can do anything that I want to do. So if that's the case, then the question is, what happens? What gets in the way? If we at one point all felt that way, what gets in the way? And I'm here to tell you that for the most part, this is not 100% the end all be all, but for the most part, my experience, both in my own life and what I've witnessed of those around me, is that we get in our own way. So what lays down the barriers? It's us. We often are the ones that place the resistance on our own path, that prevent us from living an inspired, fulfilled life that we ultimately came here to live. So I wanted to be able to share with you a little something called the tale of two selves. And this is actually a term that's been coined in more recent positive psychology. See, we all have two selves. And I know you might be thinking, especially if you're like me, you're thinking, wait a minute, I've got way more than two voices going on in this head. And that may be the case with the constant thoughts and such that are fluttering around. But psychology has coined these two selves, one being the unconditioned self. This is the self that we brought into this world. This is known as the true self. We've often referenced this as our highest self. For me, I even prefer to say the deepest self versus highest self, because when I think of my highest self, I think of that as somewhere up above me, and it could or could not be perhaps out of reach, and I've got to kind of reach out for it and climb up to it. But our deepest self would just be what's already inside us, that we need to peel away whatever layers are potentially covering it so that we can unveil that true self. So true self is how it's also been labeled in Christianity. It's known as the original blessing. In Buddhism, it's known as the original face. It is how we come into this world. It is the fact that we come into this world wide-eyed with no preconceived notions or beliefs or doubts or worries or fears or cynicism. I mean, you've probably never seen a cynical baby. And it's because you cannot be cynical without having a past. And all too soon in life, for many of us, is that the past starts to be formed. We have the first grievance. We have the first betrayal. We have the first time we're told things that are disappointing. And what starts to happen is we start to create the conditioned self. The conditioned self is also known as the personality, the ego. This is, of course, your Facebook self. So this is the self that we kind of create along the way based on our circumstances, based on our experiences, so that we can kind of create a version of ourselves to put out to the world that we believe will bring us validation and acceptance. And we all carry both of these selves with us at all times, this version of us. There is that unconditioned self, the one that's already happy, the one that doesn't need approval from anyone because the contentment and the satisfaction is already there. And then there's that conditioned self that is constantly seeking for the happiness and to be accepted. And it's a really interesting path that we all take on in life through the unconditioned and the conditioned self. There is a reason that when we do see a small baby, we tend to feel a warmth. I know for me, whenever I see a small baby, I smile. And I think it's because when you see a baby, they're the closest to that connection to where we came from, that source that connects all of us. And it's just a beautiful thing. You know, that baby is not angry. It's not hurt. It's not, pissed off at its husband because he didn't take out the garbage. You know, it's this beautiful life that is contentment and love and joy. And that's it. That's it. So it's a really beautiful thing. So one thing I want to share with you as the umbrella statement of what we're going to cover from this point forward is that all that really happens when I talked about the fact that we lay our own resistance on the trail is that we lose connection with what we know. We forget. And in fact, everything that I say here, anything along the way that resonates with you, and by all means, take with you what will serve you, leave behind what will not. I only ask that you have an open mind throughout our conversation, because what you'll find is certain things will resonate with you. And the only reason they resonate with you is not because you're learning something new and you like what you heard. The reason it resonates with you is because it's something that you already know. And so much of our learning in life is really not learning at all. It's remembering. It's just remembering. And so what happens along the way through our experiences and through our reaction to those experiences is we just start to lose connection. Just like on a cloudy day, the sun is still shining as brightly as it ever has. We just lost connection with that brightness, with that light, because there are gray clouds in the way. So it's really just a matter of making our way back, clearing the clouds, making our way back, reconnecting. So with that being said, a few thoughts to share with you. One of the things I think we forget is, first and foremost, what success really means. And it makes all the sense in the world that this would happen, especially speaking as an American girl brought up in the US. We are given this. We're given the American dream. And at a very young age, typically, even in kindergarten, this is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution both are introduced to our children. Not to the point where they have to memorize it, but just to let them know, hey, you live in this great country, you have these inalienable rights. Those inalienable rights include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I've always found it very interesting that we are guaranteed life, we are guaranteed liberty, but we are only guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. So what that teaches us at a very young age is that, sure, happiness is available, but it lives outside of you and you've got to go get it. And it didn't help later on when Benjamin Franklin even said, you're only guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. You have to go out and catch it yourself. So we're taught very early on, as we are in the years of developing our belief systems, our perspective, which 80 to 90% of our perspective is formed within the first 7 years of our life. So here, during that period of time, we're being taught happiness lives outside of you. You have to go look for it. You have to go pursue it. You have
Hello,
to
how are you?
So there is that. And then we get further on in our lives, and as we are embraced with the culture, teaches us what success is, what success means, and often it's,
You need a water?
Can I get a large one?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out who's not muted. Sorry, and I can't.
No worries.
Is
I
it?
think it's Erica Laverse, Barbara.
Got it. Sorry about that, Kimberly.
No worries at all.
Continue.
I wanted some water too. It's all good. So along the line, we start to kind of form these goals for ourselves because we believe, that we're supposed to have goals. In fact, in my corporate life, I was taught, of course, how to set SMART goals. If you're familiar with SMART goals, you've got the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and trackable or timeline based. And I don't know if I so much buy all that anymore. I mean, especially the realistic, I don't know if I want my goals to be all that realistic anymore, but I way away from the point. The fact of the matter is we tend to start to set goals, and sometimes it looks like this, it's I want to get that job, I want to get that car, that house, the right partner, have a certain level of status in my industry or what I do. And we set these goals for ourselves. And what I want to remind you is that when you're setting goals for yourself, for any goal you have ever set for yourself, for anything you have ever put on the list of I want to accomplish, and so often we make the mistake of saying, when I get that job, then I'll be happy. When I find that right, perfect partner, then I'll be happy. And we let our happiness, because we were taught to look for it outside ourselves, rely on achieving those things that we believe will fill the cup and make us happy. But at the end of the day, every goal you've ever had, anything that you have ever wanted, is because truly you believed that in the achieving, in the attaining of that goal, you would be happier. The goal in life is happiness. And there have been a number of research studies around the world where people have been asked the very simple question of anything in life, what do you want? And it is to be happy. And for many, for my loved ones, to be happy. But it's happiness. It's to be happy. And when we're thinking of all these things that we're trying to attain and achieve in our lives, in our career, in our relationships, ultimately what we really want is to be happy. We just believe that that's the path to it. And the fact of the matter is, the path to real happiness is an inward path. Because happiness isn't something that you get from life. It's something that you bring to your life. So that's a big deal, is understanding for yourself, really importantly, what success really means. You know, I sat down with really just have a conversation. We were at the same event, and this was like a life wellness development coach. And we sat down and had a conversation. He immediately started giving me tips on how to achieve certain goals. He made a very strong assumption of what my goals were and thought it was about money and achieving on that level. And my definition of success is not the big house. My definition of success is not the fancy car. You know, my definition of success is very individual to me, as your definition of success is and should be individual to you. So determining what ultimately brings you to a place of being authentic and honoring yourself, but then also having an understanding that the ultimate goal, no matter what goals you lay out for yourself on paper, or what, you know, objectives you place under the goals or tasks you list under the objectives to kind of get it done, ultimately the desire is to be happy in this life. So reconnect with what success really means. And when you realize what success really means to you, you can start kind of channeling your energy in the right direction, and also stay in connection with the fact that you bring happiness into the experience. You can choose to be happy. I mean, if you think about situations where we've seen people who maybe don't have in their life what we would consider success or fulfillment, but they're incredibly happy. And then other people that we see who have, in our mind, anything they could ever ask for, and they're not happy. It's because they're not drawing the happiness from within. Whereas that first example, they are. So reconnect with what success really means to you, and stay connected with the fact that you draw the happiness out of yourself. It's a choice. You know, in fact, happiness, I would say, is a series of choices. We get to make them all day, every day. So that's the first point. And the next thing that I think we often forget is, and this is a big one to me, is how amazing we really are. And this happens for a number of reasons. And ultimately, we have to own it. You know, it can happen based on experiences we've had, other people that we have had experiences with, circumstances we found ourselves in, can temporarily make us forget how amazing we really are. But then ultimately, it only stays an issue if we hold on to it. So again, we're responsible. We're responsible for placing the resistance on our own path. We forget how amazing we really are. And here's one reason. We are brought up into a culture of just not being enough. At some point in our lives, each and every one of us, we have either been told, been made to feel, or made ourselves feel that we are in some way, shape, or form not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not knowledgeable enough. It's the little boy that's told, you're not tall enough to play basketball. It's the little girl who loves to dance who's told, you're not coordinated enough to be a dancer. Go find something else to do. And often we're told these stories, and often we tell ourselves these stories, or once they're told to us, we record it, and then we put it on loop in our brain, and we retell ourselves the stories over and over again. And what I've learned to be true is that if you tell yourself the story enough, long enough, consistently enough times, in your life, you will start to build the cast of characters that will ensure that your story becomes your reality. So you at some point have to own it and have to choose a different way of looking at it. You have to be willing to see things differently, and often willing to take a leap of faith on yourself. When I was 18 years old, I had taken up jazzercise. I was in a very unhealthy place. I had been battling eating disorders since the age of 12 and was not well. A friend was worried, asked me to attend a jazzercise class. She thought it could help. Her daughter was teaching. I lasted 19 minutes in my first class. It was 1 minute longer than the number of years I had been alive. That's how I remember it so clearly. But I sat and I watched the entire rest of the hour in awe, like so blown away by the energy and the smiles and the laughter and the community. It's where I first fell in love with group fitness. And I couldn't afford to go. So the lady that I worked with, my friend Edna, she worked it out for me to be the girl that punched the cards as people came in to take the class so that I could take the class for free. First job in the fitness industry. And I started taking the class, and I could last a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer. I started building my confidence. I quickly realized that if I want to be able to do this new thing that I love, this movement, this connection, this energy, be a part of this community, that I had to eat and I had to keep it down and I had to take better care of myself. And it was a long path from there, a long journey, but it really started me on the path of learning to love myself, learning to value myself. And a few months into it, I had all the routines memorized. I was so exhilarated. I went to that teacher and I asked her if she would mentor me and take me under her wing to become a teacher. And at age 18, I was told, Kimberly, I'm so sorry, but I just don't think you have what it takes to be a teacher. So I was completely crushed. I never went back to that class. And a couple weeks later, I got into a pretty bad car accident and I was laid up for a few weeks. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I had no choice but to take an inward journey, a very reluctant inward journey. And in that process, I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I came to know I wanted to be in this industry. I'll probably never teach, but that's okay. There are other ways to do it. So I became a personal trainer. When I got back on my feet, I quit my job that I had right out of high school, working at a bank in a cubicle with a headset, telling people what their balance is every day. The check cleared. Don't do that anymore. But I started swiping cards at a local Bally's, got my personal training certification, started doing orientations and such. And then a couple of months into that job, the aerobics coordinator, as they were called back then, called me on a Friday night and said, Kimberly, can you jump in and teach tomorrow? And I said, oh no, Lori, I'm sorry. I would love to help you, but I can't do that. And she's like, well, why not? You're not coming to class tomorrow? And I'm like, oh no, I'm coming to class. I come every Saturday, but I can't teach. She's like, well, why not? She's like, I see you in classes twice a day usually. You're a personal trainer, you know the body, just put a tape in, because we used tapes back then. She said, just put a tape in and do what you've done in classes you've been taking. And I said, Lori, I'm so sorry. I would love to be able to help you, but I cannot. You see, I just don't have what it takes to be a teacher. And immediately as I said those words, I realized they weren't my words. It wasn't my story. It was a story someone else had told me, and I started owning it for myself. And so in that moment, I had to make a decision. Either continue to own the story and let it become my reality, or take a leap of faith on myself for myself and throw caution to the wind and jump in and teach that class, which I did. Now, sadly, I accidentally grabbed a step tape for a high-low class. Now, if you don't know what that means teaching high-low at 126 beats per minute, and that's not a good idea. But I caught my mistake quickly. I changed it out, and the class went well. It ended up becoming my class. I've been teaching ever since, and it's been the greatest joy of my life, the greatest cup filler. It's the thing that I would do, and I do I do for free. But it taught me a huge lesson about the not enough syndrome. We're the ones that can stand in our own way in believing that we're not enough in some way, shape, or form. So I would just encourage you that if you have a desire on your heart, it was placed there for a reason. If there's something that you're incredibly passionate about doing, about fulfilling within you, it was placed there for a reason. And you've got to follow your heart and get beyond the I'm not good enough, I'm not talented enough, I don't know how to do it, I don't, it's all the resistance that we're placing on our own path. And then another thing that happens, we have situations where we fall down. And I much prefer to use the word fall, although here you see the word failed. And I specifically use the word failed here in the presentation because I know it's how many people feel. They try something, it doesn't work out, they feel like they failed and they give up. And what I have to share with you is that the definition of success is not falling. In fact, the definition of success, how success is determined, is by falling over and over and over again, but choosing to get back up. Zen proverb, fall down 6 times, get up 7, period. you keep moving toward the desire that's being placed on your heart, period. It just, there's no giving up on yourself. You know, lots of things to give up on. Give up on the struggle, give up on the frustration, give up on the attachments, give up on the grievances. Give those things up, but don't give up on your heart's desire just because you fall. We all fall, every single one of us. If I had a nickel for every mistake I've made along the way, I would so be a millionaire right now. But falling, failing, it's not the end of the road. It's just not the end of the road. And I would encourage you to just keep your connection to that heart's desire. Get back up every time. There's something that I wanted to share with you along these lines.
After being cut from his high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. He wasn't able to speak until he was almost 4 years old, and his teachers said he would never amount to much. Was demoted from her job as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television. Fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. At age 11, he was cut from his team after being diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency, which made him smaller in stature than most kids his age. At 30 years old, he was left devastated and depressed after being unceremoniously removed from the company he started. A high school dropout whose personal struggles with drugs and poverty culminated in an unsuccessful suicide attempt. The teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and that he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Rejected by Decca Recording Studios, who said, "We don't like their sound. They have no future in show business." His first book was rejected by 27 publishers. His fiancée died, failed in business, had a nervous breakdown, and was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never tried anything new.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to remind you that whether you have limiting thought patterns, limiting beliefs, I mean, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. And you can choose to think other thoughts. You can be just a willingness to see things differently can be the most incredible step in that direction. It was for me in a big way. Any kind of limiting beliefs, whether they were stories told to you, stories you told yourself, people that didn't believe you could do it, you not believing you could do it, you failing and feeling like it was the end. You know, all of these things happen to all of us, but you can choose to stay connected to the desire in your heart, and you can choose to get back up and move forward. I have this amazing, one of my favorite quotes from the poet Rumi. "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom." So I encourage you to just look inward and determine, am I holding myself? Am I holding myself tight in that bud because I don't believe I can do it? Because I don't know the path? Because I don't know how to do it? Because I don't think I'm good enough, strong enough, talented enough, smart enough? People have told me I'm not those things. Maybe I tried before and it didn't work. That's holding yourself tight in a bud. imagine what your life will be like 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, if you stay in a place of inaction, if you hold on to those fears. Fears are real and it's okay, but courage is moving forward even though fear is present. So I would just encourage you to let your faith be bigger than your fear and let the bud blossom open, because that's what you deserve in your life. So reconnect with how amazing you really are. You know, Howard Thurman said, don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world truly needs is people who have come alive. And the only way to come alive for yourself, for those around you, for the world at large, is, you know, to reconnect with who you are and how amazing that you is. So I encourage you to do that. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on that is incredibly intertwined here, so related, is that we just forget how to follow our own heart. And I think we've probably all done this. We live in a life where culture raises us. You know, we're raised by our parents, our families, our communities, our neighbors, our teachers. Media starts to play a role. You know, this whole kind of culture is how we start to form our thoughts, which then generate our beliefs, which create our perspective on life. And we tend to lose the connection to our own heart. And we start even living our lives based on what we think we're supposed to be doing, what we think mom and dad would expect of us, what we think the community or our culture would expect of us. What happens is we let ourselves be held hostage. We become, as I call it, shackled by the shoulds. It's the, I should do this. It's the, you know, my first marriage, you know, God love him. I love him. But I married him because I thought I should. We were best friends and he picked up and moved from state to state to be with me. I'm like, I should marry this person. My parents loved him. They wanted me to marry him. I should marry him. And he's a beautiful man. We're still friends to this day. But to make decisions based on what you think will either make other people happy or ensure they don't have a disappointment in you is holding yourself hostage to something outside of yourself, when what you really came into this life to do is to be true to your own heart, to really be true to your own heart. There is a world of difference between inspiration and motivation. And when we live shackled to the shoulds, we are being motivated in our lives. And in life, motivation is very powerful, and it's not a bad thing. Motivation can be a wonderful thing. We motivate our clients and our students all day, every day, when we're teaching, when we're working with them. We are an external force for good change, for positive change, and that's a beautiful thing. But in life as a whole, the number one most powerful motivator is fear. It's what causes people to stay in a job longer than they should, because they think, well, if I make a move in another direction, I'll lose everything, and so I have to stay here. Or they continue to do a job because of the fear they'll lose the job. Stay in a relationship that they shouldn't be in because of the fear of being alone. You know, fear motivates us to do a lot of things, including a lot of the action that we take in our life that wouldn't necessarily serve us in being true to our heart, but we take that action because of maybe fear of disappointing others, fear of letting people down, fear of failure for sure. And I just want to shift perspective a bit and talk about inspiration, because whereas motivation is an external force driving us to take action, inspiration is an internal force. Inspired means in spirit. Inspiration is something that comes from within to drive us forward. And inspiration is always positive. If you're feeling inspired to do something, then you know you're following your heart. If you're motivated to do something, it could be a heart's desire, it could be from inspiration, or it could be from fear. So don't let yourself be motivated from a negative place. Make sure you check in with yourself and know that you're always being fueled by inspiration. You know, I spent my entire life being told that it's all about hard work. It's all about working hard, struggling, doing more than the next guy would do. My father taught all 5 of us. I have 4 brothers. That's why I teach kickboxing. I'm the baby. People always used to say, you must have been so spoiled. I'm like, no, I got the crap beat out of me. That's why I punch and kick. But in all seriousness, I spent my whole life, as did my brothers, hearing things like, nothing worth having comes easy. There's no substitute for hard work. That came from our dear Thomas Edison. I mean, he's pretty smart. We should believe that, right? Work hard, dream big. I learned the value of work by working hard. Don't wish for it, work for it. And of course, no shortcuts. You got to work for it. So we build our lives based on, quite honestly, a false premise. And the false premise is, the more you do, the more you're worth. The more you accomplish, the more you achieve, the more you attain, whether it be money, status, etc., the more you're worth. And I'm here to tell you today that that is the most false premise ever. You are worthy, period. You're not worthy because of what you've accomplished. You're not worthy because of what you've attained or what you've done or how much work you've put in. I get it. I mean, when I was in the director role with Lifetime, I wore my 80-hour work weeks like a badge of honor. And I just learned that when you work for the sake of work, when you're motivated to work, hard work can wear you down. Hard work can fatigue you, can burn you out. However, inspired action fills your cup. Inspired action is where it is at. And what's really interesting is they look exactly the same from the outside. You know, the first several years I was in the director role, it was like, you know, this girl is on fire. I was just, I decided that was my theme song for a bit. And I realized I can't sing. Thank you for putting up with that. But it really was just an inspired time for me. I mean, I was working hard by anyone looking outside from the inside, but I was never tired. I didn't need as much sleep. I just jumped out of bed every morning and I loved it. You know, in the last few months of trying to build the platform for the Make a Difference Academy, anyone looking in from the outside would be like, damn, she is working her ass off, because it looks the same from the outside. But when it's inspired action, when you allow yourself to be inspired to move forward, inspired to take the next logical step, it makes all the difference in the world. And I've spent a lot of my time in my professional career doing work for the sake of work. Hard work and struggle is not the way to the top. Hard work and struggle will fry you to the bone. And so I cannot encourage you enough to continue to follow your heart, to do what you're passionate about, to stay in connection with what you're passionate about, and to let your action be inspired action, not ever taking action because you're motivated in any way, shape, or form from any kind of negative place. Fear of anything, disappointment, letting people down, letting yourself down, all of those things I spoke of before. Inspired action is the way to take action. I'm not downing action at all. Action is necessary. But inspired action, not only is it what will not burn you out, but inspired action, because you're in alignment with who you really are, it is so much more powerful than hard work and struggle could ever hope to be. So I encourage you to find the inspired action for yourself in everything that you do. And I wanted to, in this light, share one of my favorite books. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. It's written by Bronnie Ware. She's a palliative care nurse. And she wrote this as a blog. It was later republished in the Huffington Post as a blog, and now it's a book. It's amazing. And what happened was, she's a palliative care nurse. And that means she's working with patients who are generally in the last 10, 12 weeks of their life. She started asking them if they had any regrets. And the responses were so repetitive, she was able to create a top 5 list. That's what she wrote about. And some of the things on the top 5 list are what you might assume. You know, I wished I hadn't worked so hard, hint, hint. I wish I'd stayed connected with people that I care about. But the number one regret, as she surveyed all of these patients who are looking at the very end of their life, and she asked them to look back and to determine if they had any regrets, the number one regret that surfaced over and over again so many times that it became number one on the list, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So that is my wish for you. My wish for you is that you don't get to the end of your days and look back and wish that you had done things differently, wish that you had followed your heart, wish that you had lived a life true to yourself, because you can choose to do that right here, right now. Big time. So ultimately, you want to reconnect with your heart's deepest desires. And what life has taught me, and at one point I hoped this was true, and then at one point I believed this was true, but now I can confidently share this with you, knowing that this is true. If the universe has the ability to place a desire on your heart, then it also has the ability to bring together whatever resources are necessary, whatever collaborative components, whatever ideas, thoughts, inspired actions are necessary to be able to make that desire become a reality. I can promise you that. The only thing that will stop you is you. So with that being said, just in a nutshell, I want to be able to share with you that it really is about having faith in yourself. And I love this quote by Martin Luther King, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Because so often, we don't take a leap of faith on ourselves. We don't, I held off on starting the Make a Difference Academy for almost 2 years after I first had the idea to do so, because I was comfortable. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, where to start, much less, how to take it further steps down the road. I couldn't see what it could potentially be a year from now, 2 years from now. But ultimately I learned I just needed to take the first step. When you take the first step, and this is take the first step in faith, but in my mind, faith is just an understanding of how the universe works. What you put out there is going to come back to you. If you put out there, that life is scary and we live in a world of lack and I'm not enough and I can't do it, well, then that's what's going to come back to you. It's like the old quote, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Okay? So faith is an understanding in that. But if you put out there your heart's desire and you take that first step, knowing that you're on the path that's true to your heart, then ultimately the next logical step will fall into place. And you'll be able to take it step by step. And you don't necessarily have to see the destination. You'll just feel that you're on the path. And here's the really, really good news. Sometimes in life, when we're traveling from place to place, we have to activate our GPS. It used to look like this. Some of you on the call probably don't even know what that is. That's okay, because we generally use this. And what happens is we plug in where we are and where we want to go. And then step by step, it gives us the directions on how to get there. And in fact, if I'm sitting here in, I'm in Aliso Viejo, California, Orange County, California, and I want to get to New York, I'm going to take a road trip to New York, and I plug that into my GPS, there is no part of me whatsoever that wants that GPS to start spitting out all the directions to me at once. I mean, that would be insane. There's no way. I mean, and we don't even want all of our desires at once. We think we do, but having all of your heart's desires come at you at one time would be like having all of the food we're going to eat for the rest of our life in our next meal. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. Have some contentment and satisfaction with it coming step by step. So with our GPS, here's a really beautiful thing to know too. The GPS never turns on and says, where have you been? How did you get here? The GPS doesn't judge, doesn't want to know, well, how'd you end up where you are? No, just needs to know, where are you? Where do you want to go? And I'm going to get you there. The GPS never says, well, I tried to give you directions yesterday, but you didn't follow them, so I'm not going to give you directions again today. Never says that. Never. The GPS always gives us guidance. It is the global positioning system, and it is designed to give us guidance from where we are, physically speaking, to where we want to go. And the other cool thing is that if we maybe turn off, either because we're stubborn and we think that the GPS is being bossy, or we just make a wrong turn, what always happens? Recalculating, no problem, recalculating. And 9 times out of 10, there are multiple ways to get to where it is that we want to go, and the GPS just gets us back on track. So the good thing to know, and the whole reason I bring that analogy up, is to let you know the really good news, and that is that you have an emotional guidance system. And you can activate this as well to guide you through your life towards your heart's desires, to unleash the power that is you as a creator in your own life. So you're probably asking, how do I do it? How do I access my emotional guidance system? Quieting the mind, I have found, is the absolute quickest way, shortest path, most powerful way to be able to access the guidance system, to be able to hear that voice deep within that's there, that unconditioned self. What I can tell you is that your life is speaking to you quietly all the time. All the time. We just usually don't hear that still small voice because we have so much else going on. We're so busy in this go crazy busy world where there just aren't enough hours in the day to get it all done. That's why it's important to have a presence practice. You know, in yoga, we call it the monkey mind. And we have tens of thousands of thoughts swirling around in our mind all the time. Most of them repetitive and many of them negative. Thoughts of not enough, thoughts of doubt. You know, I mean, so often we have these desires pop up and then we just kill them with our doubt before they even have a chance. So being able to quiet the mind through some kind of presence practice is a great way to be able to access the guidance system that we all have. So you might be thinking, what does that mean? So a couple of different things. Remembering that it is a presence practice is the key to be here now in this moment. I cannot encourage you enough to take 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day, maybe up to 15 if you can swing it. I know how busy you are, but if you can work up to 15 minutes a day as a gift to yourself and to everyone around you, I promise you, it is not selfish, or even if it is, it's selfish for the sake of being a strong, positive advocate for others. You know, we are in an industry of service, and yet what we often forget is that before we can be a positive advocate for anyone else, whether it's your family, your closest friends, your community, the world at large, the global community, before you can be a positive advocate for anyone else, you have to be a positive advocate for yourself. You have to take care of yourself. So to give yourself 15 minutes a day of just being present is huge. And it works, and science has proven that it works. So for us to do the one thing that doesn't take that much time and doesn't cost anything at all and has been proven to work, for us to not do it is just insanity to me. So presence practice cannot encourage you enough, even if it means that you lock yourself in a closet until your 4.5-year-old finds you, which I've done before. So finding flow is one way to be present. And this can happen through, you know, a favorite hobby. Maybe you like to run, maybe you like to just dance wherever, maybe dance on the beach or practice yoga, or maybe it's teaching. Maybe teaching is how you find your flow. I know when I'm teaching, I am in flow. I am in the moment. That hour goes so fast. It is like the gift of my everyday that I get to teach. You know, flow is determined and defined as the zone. You know, that's why it's called, you know, the runner's high. There's even a phenomenon called the dancer's high. But it's the zone, and it's characterized by just being in complete absorption in what you're doing, to where you lose sense of space and time. You're so present. You're in the moment. So recognize what flow is for you in your life. Find opportunities to engage in flow, whether it's a few minutes at a time or if you teach. Recognize that you have that ability to access flow, if that's a place of flow for you. Otherwise, find what is. Find a presence practice through finding flow. And then, of course, so incredibly important, find stillness. And many call this meditation. For you, it might be meditation, it might be prayer. It could just be sitting still and focusing on slowing down your breath. Just closing your eyes and focusing on your breath is enough to quiet the mind and relax both the mind and the body. It turns on inhibitors that kind of shut down that feeling of constantly feeling like your foot's on the gas pedal. So it turns on our GABA. So opportunity for stillness. Again, 5 minutes up to 15 minutes. If you can just take the opportunity to find the stillness, to be able to quiet your mind. It's when we do that, when we're in flow, when we're in stillness, when we're able to quiet all the crazy monkey mind, the craziness happening, the flurry of thoughts, what we call also in yoga, the vrittis that bubble up all the time. When we're able to kind of quiet them a bit, that's when we can hear the guidance that's speaking to us all of the time. You know, some CEOs were asked one time, a number of CEOs of tremendous companies, when and where it was they got their best ideas that helped move their company forward. And only 20% said it was at work or while at the office. The other 80%, 8 out of 10, gave answers like when I'm out jogging, when I'm playing with my kids. One was when I'm in the shower. I mean, it's when they're just doing other things that allow them to just be in the moment. And so I can't encourage you enough to be able to find the presence practice through flow, through stillness, and then above all else, pay attention to how you feel. You know, it's called an emotional guidance system for a reason. If you're not feeling good, then chances are you're on the rumble strips in some way, shape, or form. You're not in alignment with who you really are. And when you're driving your car and you start to feel your tires hit the rumble strips, what do? You get back on the road. But so often when it comes to our life, we feel the rumble strips and then we start focusing all our attention on the rumble strips and the negative feelings associated with it. Next thing you know, we're on a ditch. It happens in our relationships when a small spat turns into a big argument. It happens, you know, in our financial affairs when we start focusing on what we don't have, and then we end up with feeling more lack. In our professional, it happens across the board. If we could just realize that our emotions are guiding us, and when we start to feel ourselves kind of veer off and hit the rumble strips, let that be a signal to reconnect with yourself. Get the quiet time, find the flow, find some stillness, and get yourself back on path, back in alignment with who you are, and do something that feels good. You know, I showed my neon orange toes to Barbie in the beginning of the call because yesterday, in the craziness of trying to catch up from the big Idea World conference, and like I couldn't get it all done. And I'm like, you know what I really need? I need to do something for me. So I took 40 minutes and I went and I got my toes did. And it was the best 40 minutes of my day. I came out of that little, you know, walk-in, no appointment necessary nail salon. I walked out feeling like $1,000,000, like ready to dive back in. You know, it's a gift that you give to yourself and anything that you're hoping to accomplish. And yes, I did get the 10-minute neck massage along with it. That's so cool they offer that. I don't remember that, but anyway, yes, I would like the neck massage too. All right, so what I want you to always, always remember, you are a powerful creator. You are the creator of your experience, and it is incredibly powerful. And here's the really, really great news. Not only can you have that same feeling that you had when you were a small child, where I can do anything that my heart desires, I can do anything that I set my mind to, but in addition to that, you have guidance. You have your emotional guidance system to help you every single step of the way. And now you know how to access it. So before I close with a couple of thoughts, I wanted to share one more clip. This is a quote. If you're not familiar with Marianne Williamson, she has been one of my greatest teachers, mentors. I can't say enough about Marianne Williamson. She is a teacher on the Course in Miracles, a strong book on just shifting your mindset, which is really what all this is about. And she wrote a book based on the Course in Miracles called A Return to Love. And this was a quote used in the amazing movie Coach Carter that is a direct excerpt from the book A Return to Love. If you haven't heard it before, I hope you enjoy.
So they can cut the chain off the door, but they can't make us play.
That was not the quote, but it's coming.
Decided we're gonna finish what you started, sir. Yeah, so leave us be, coach. We got shit to do, sir.
I think he meant stuff, but you know. Here we go.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Sir, I just want to say thank you. You saved my life.
Thank you, sir.
So that's the quote, start to finish. There's actually a piece in there in the book that's left out for the movie, but it really encapsulates the thought behind the quote. And at the end of the day, when you embrace your light, when you embrace the power of who you really are, the most beautiful after effect or byproduct of that, and this is something that you should really know as leaders. You are leaders in this industry, and you are leaders on this planet. And I so appreciate you for that. And when you embrace the inspired life, when you embrace the power of you, you give permission to everyone around you, all of the other instructors you support, the other professionals that you support, your family, your friends, your students, your clients, you give permission to everyone around you to do the same. And wouldn't we want that more than anything? So know the power of who you are. This Robin Sharma quote, life wants you to win. Please get out of your own way. That's really the key, is to embrace who we really are, to stop throwing down the resistance on our own path, or when we do, start to become more aware of it, recognize it, and move through it, move around it, over it, under it, get to the other side of it, and be stronger for our efforts. And you are as powerful as you realize yourself to be, and you truly are. So I wanted to just be able to also give you an invitation, and that is to stay in touch with me through the Make a Difference Academy. It's very easy. If you have your phone handy, you just text FLIPP to the number 22828. So the number you put in as the phone number is 22828. The FLIPP just stands for Fitness Leaders Inspiring with Purpose and Passion. So it's flip with two P's, because we got to have the passion. And what that will do is get us in contact. And then what I'll be able to do as well is send you a direct link to some information. You know, part of Make a Difference Academy is starting to create online courses, both free courses. There's a free course I'd like to send you a link to. It's also on my Facebook page if we're friends on Facebook, and if we're not, that's a problem. But we can remedy it, don't worry. But so there's a free course. There are going to be many free courses, more free webinars. There'll be other courses that are just designed to inspire and to help grow and to help support the fulfillment and success of fitness and yoga teachers, period. That is the goal. That is the vision of the Make a Difference Academy. It's not just going to be me. It's going to be other amazing teachers, facilitators, presenters that bring education and inspiration onto this platform. And then we'll also have events. So I wanted to be sure that you know of this one, the Inspired Life event, the first Inspired Life event, October 6th through 8th, right here in sunny Southern California in Newport Beach. And we are flying in the amazing Dr. Robert Holden, who is one of my other greatest teachers and mentors, known as the happiness expert. He's coming in from London, England, and he's a beautiful teacher, an amazing coach, and truly heartfelt and wicked smart and insanely funny. And then we'll also have, you know, myself, that handsome guy Rob, and another handsome guy, Anthony Chavez, who's a tremendous coach and teacher. We're all going to come together to try to create just a platform and an experience where we can all walk away just knowing and discovering a true path toward living a life that we're really passionate about. And then what I want to be able to send to you as a gift, I'm happy to send this PowerPoint So I'm so happy to anyone that gets their email to me. I will just share this PowerPoint with you, and that way you're welcome to use it, repurpose it, just reference to it if you want to. You know, knowledge is not meant to be owned, it's meant to be shared. What's mine is yours. So happy to send that. But then also a link to this free mini course that I created called Living an Inspired Life. It's just a 40-minute video and a single-page worksheet to help you kind of walk through the 3 steps toward living a more inspired life. So I'd love to be able to share that gift with you. If we're not connected on Facebook, you can link to it there. But anyone who wants it, I'd be happy to email it to you as well. So with that, that's all I have prepared for you today. I don't know if Barbie, I know we're at our end mark by 3 minutes over, as a matter of fact, but if anyone has questions, I have no intention of stepping away until questions are answered. Otherwise, feel free to just email me, reach out to me in any way, shape, or form if you want to connect further.
Can you unshare your screen? I don't know how to do that.
I can. Stop share. Look at me. I'm a Zoomer. I'm officially a Zoomer.
You are in. It's the greatest. Oh my goodness. Let me stop recording. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Hold on.